CreepyCorner stories.
Hey everyone, welcome back to CreepyCorner stories. You know, diving into the dark web is always risky, but sharing these stories with you makes it worth it. I'm curious, where are you watching this from right now? Let me know in the comments below. I noticed that these kind of stories hit differently depending on where you are. It might make the experience a little creepier. So tell me, are you watching from the safety of your home or somewhere less secure? I made podcast on the dark web with a pope that is Cannibal. I think he wants my little sister for his next ritual. What's up, Reddit? This might be the most fucked up thing I've ever posted, and I know how wild this title sounds. Trust me, I wouldn't believe it either if it didn't happen to me. But if something happens to me or my sister after this, at least someone might read this and know why. So I've been into podcasts since high school. Not just true crime and creepy shitty. I mean real weird underground stuff. You ever heard of that old YouTube animation series, Don't Feed the Monkeys at Night? Yeah, I was the kid watching that at 3 a.m. with one AirPod in while my family slept. I always liked stories that felt too real, like the kind that makes you check your window even though you live on the 3rd floor. Fast forward to this summer. I just turned 21, working part-time at a FedEx warehouse near downtown Houston, and started this dumb little podcast with my best friend, Nate. We called it Off the Grid. Nothing fancy, just us talking conspiracy theories, horror stories, and interviewing weird people we found on Discord or Twitter. Think Red Scare meets Morbid Podcast meets Joe Rogan if he drank Faygo and had no clue what he was doing. Anyway, that was all chill until Nate dared me to find a guest on the dark web. The bet that started it all. I was scrolling TikTok late one night, just watching those day in the life of a mortician videos, when Nate texted me, "Yo bro, bet you won't find a real creepier guest from the deep web for the next EP, lol." I responded with, "Watch me," fully thinking I'd find some neckbeard selling bootleg Pokemon cartridges or something. But I've always been a little too curious. You know that weird itch in the back of your brain when someone says, "Don't look it up"? Yeah, that's me. I'm the idiot who looks it up. So I dusted off an old Tor browser I hadn't touched since high school, booted up my VPN, and started digging. Most of it was what you'd expect. Broken websites, sketchy forums, old archived hit lists that looked fake as hell. One site called The Cloak Chapel caught my eye. The homepage looked like a church site from the 90s. Grainy photo of a pope, all shadowy, with just his hands out, palms facing up. Below it was a message that just said, "Confess your guilt. Be made pure. Speak with the Father." Bro, I swear to God, I felt something cold go down my spine when I clicked that. Meeting Father Dante. There was a form, just name, email, LOL, and topic of confession. I typed in podcast interview request and hit submit, half joking. Not even 10 minutes later, I got an email reply from cleansings@thecloakchapel.onion. Subject, "Blessed child, you have been heard. Peace upon you, seeker. The Father will speak with you. Your confession time is scheduled. Please prepare a private space. No recordings, no phones, no outside sound." Attached was a Zoom link. Yeah, a freaking Zoom link. I was half laughing, like, this had to be some LARPING religious cosplayer. So I told Nate, and he was hyped. Told me I had to record it, even if we didn't use it. So I set up OBS dimmed my lights, and joined the meeting the next night. At first, the screen was black. Then it flickered like a static VHS. I heard breathing, slow, like someone wearing a mask. Then, the video kicked on. He was sitting in what looked like a massive cathedral, but something was off. It was too quiet, too still. He had on full white robes with a golden cross and this porcelain mask covering his face, not like a regular pope. I mean, this shirt looked melted. No eye holes, just a permanent smile. He said, "Welcome, my child. Confess the podcast begins. Now, listen." I figured, cool, let's treat this like a spooky improv episode. So I played along. I said, I confess, I've been seeking answers about what's really out there, about what people are hiding. He nodded slowly and whispered, "Then let us speak truth before the meat grows cold." I laughed, uncomfortable chuckle. Nate was texting me mid-call like, "What the fuck, this dude is cracked all. But we kept it rolling. We asked him questions. His voice was deep, but shaky, like an old man who smoked too much, but still had power in his lungs. He talked about ritual cleansings and the holy diet. I thought it was metaphorical, like spiritual purification, but then he started naming specific ingredients. Infant breath, mother's sorrow, first bone marrow of the seventh daughter. That's when it got real quiet on my end. Even Nate stopped texting. I asked, "Are you speaking metaphorically or?" He paused. Then he said, "The Lord's body is bread. We must make ours in his image. I swear on everything, I felt something watching me through the screen." The real horror starts. After the call ended, he just vanished mid-sentence. I sat there in silence. I saved the recording, and yeah, I'll upload a clip if this post blows up, but I swear, something was wrong with it. The audio got distorted near the end. There were sounds under his voice, like chewing, wet chewing. I didn't sleep much that night. Next morning, I wake up to a new email from cleansings@thecloakchapel.onion. Subject, you brought a guest. Confessions must be pure. You were not alone. Your line has been tainted. We must begin anew. Prepare the youngest. I thought it was some dumb threat, until I noticed something in the video I hadn't before. Right at the end, during the static, there's a frame, less than a second. I screenshotted it and zoomed in. It was a picture of my little sister in her room from inside the house. I didn't tell my sister about the email. I didn't even tell Nate. When I saw that still frame of her hair was messed up, the blinds behind her open, this faint greenish glow at the edge of the picture. I froze. It wasn't like a normal photo. It had that weird grain you get from low-light CCTV cameras, but also this strange warping around her face, like she was being pulled slightly out of focus while everything else was sharp. I checked my house from top to bottom at 3 a.m. with a baseball bat. Every closet, every window, under the bed. I didn't find anyone, but the air felt thick, like it was pressing against me. The smell of burnt incense and old wood lingered in the hallway, and we don't even own incense. I deleted the Zoom link, deleted the emails, wiped the Tor browser. I thought, that's it. It's over. Except it wasn't. The voices around 4 a.m., just as I was dozing off. My sister, let's call her Mia, knocked on my door. Her eyes were wide and watery. "There's someone in my room." I jolted upright, ran in there. No one. Just her LED string lights flickering faintly, and the glow of her phone. but she swore she heard whispering under her bed. Not from under her bed, under the floorboards. That smell again. Faint incense. It was strongest near her closet. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I sat in the hallway outside her door like some half-baked security guard. The next morning, I checked my podcast email. I'd made a new one just to stay organized. Sitting in my inbox was a new message from Father Dante at the Cloak Chapel. .onion. Subject, confession denied. It had one sentence. We were already inside. The timestamp said 3:06 a.m., exactly when Mia knocked on my door. Nate disappears. I tried calling Nate all day. No answer. His Instagram story stopped cold. His Twitter was deleted overnight. His last text to me just said, "Don't let him in." No context. No joke. Just that. Then I got a DM from some random account with no profile pic. He's been cleansed. Do not speak his name. I clicked on the account and my phone froze. Screen flickered white. When it came back, my wallpaper had changed to a grainy photo of a cathedral, the same one from the Zoom call. Only now there were dozens of robed figures kneeling in the pews, all faceless. I deleted the app, but my phone camera turned on by itself. Just a flicker, front-facing, like someone took a screenshot of me holding the phone. The Starbucks incident. I decided to get out of the house. Mia was at school. I went to a Starbucks off Westheimer to clear my head. I ordered my usual caramel macchiato, sat near the window. The place was half full. Laptops, AirPods, normal people. But there was one guy sitting across the room. White robes, hood up, hands folded. No coffee. He wasn't looking at me directly, but he had a tiny Bluetooth earpiece in, and every so often he'd tilt his head like he was listening to instructions. His thumb was slowly rubbing what looked like a piece of bone on a string. I got up to leave. When I passed him, he whispered without looking up, "He's hungry." That's it. 2 words. I nearly dropped my drink. When I got back to my car, there was a folded piece of paper under my windshield wiper. On it, handwritten, "Prepare the youngest." Same handwriting as the emails. Back at home. By the time I drove home, the sun was setting. Mia was in the living room, scrolling TikTok. She looked pale. Said she'd been seeing a man in white robes standing across the street, not moving, just staring at our windows. I checked. Nobody there. I told her we were going to stay at a hotel for a couple nights. As I packed, she said something that made my stomach flip. "Why is Father Dante in our kitchen?" I bolted downstairs. No one there. Just our kitchen window, wide open, curtains blowing inward. We don't leave windows open. Ever. On the counter was a single communion wafer. It was damp and slightly red. The ritual live stream. That night, back at the hotel, I went through the saved recording of the Zoom call frame by frame. Around the 32-minute mark, buried in static, there was another hidden frame. This time, it wasn't Mia. It was me, sleeping, in the hotel bed. Only, the timestamp said tomorrow's date. I closed the laptop, heart racing. My phone buzzed with a notification from an unknown app I'd never installed. It had a black icon with a white cross. It read, "Confession begins in 6 hours. Do not be late." When I clicked it, it opened a live stream. Grainy footage of a dark cathedral. In the center was a long wooden table. On it, a child's dress. Mia's dress. The cold knock. At exactly 3:06 a.m., there was a knock at our hotel door. Slow. Measured. 3 times. Then silence. I looked through the peephole. Nothing. But I could hear a voice outside, whispering in a sing-song tone. Bread of life, flesh of lamb, bring the child, bring the lamb. I stepped back. The hotel hallway lights flickered once, then steadied. When I looked again, there was a folded note slipped under the door. It just said, "Room service is over. Confession now." When I picked it up, my hand burned like it had been sitting on a stovetop. But the paper was ice cold. The final frame. I opened my laptop one last time. The live stream was still running. This time, the cathedral wasn't empty. There were dozens of figures in white robes, all facing the camera. In the middle of them stood Father Dante, his mask smiling. He raised his hand, and all at once they whispered, "Bring her." Then the screen cut to black. When it came back, it was showing a live feed of my hotel hallway, and the camera was getting closer to my door. The hallway feed on my laptop was still moving toward our door, frame by frame, like a slow dolly shot in a horror movie. But this wasn't a movie. This was our hotel hallway, the exact carpet pattern, the same exit sign at the end, the same table with a fake plant next to the ice machine. The camera got closer, 3 doors away, 2, 1. Then the screen glitched. A low sound, like breathing through water, filled the speakers. When it cleared, the view had changed. It wasn't the hallway anymore. It was a dimly lit room, a single chair, walls made of stone or something rougher. In the corner, a rusty microphone stand. On the chair sat a folded hotel keycard. It was my room number. The disappearing door. I rushed to the peephole again. Still nothing. But when I pressed my ear to the door, the hallway didn't sound like a hotel anymore. It was too quiet. I couldn't even hear the humming of the vending machine. Just a faint echo, like someone whispering through a long tunnel. Mia was asleep on the bed behind me. Her phone screen kept lighting up with unknown numbers. All of them said confess. I tried to call the front desk. The phone made a noise, like a cassette rewinding. Then a male voice hissed, "Do not leave the room." I hung up and pulled the curtains back. We were on the 4th floor. Outside was the parking lot, or at least it should have been. Instead, I saw rows of empty pews stretching out under a dark ceiling, like someone had projected a cathedral over reality. The cars were gone, the trees were gone, only the pews and a flickering altar at the far end. Inside the feed, on my laptop, the live stream flickered again. Now it was showing me and Mia inside our hotel room, but not exactly as we were. The colors were off, like a negative photo. My own face looked pale and stretched, my eyes completely black. Mia wasn't lying down. She was sitting upright, smiling faintly. Behind her, a tall shape in white robes leaned close, whispering into her ear. I spun around. Nothing was there, but Mia opened her eyes. They were unfocused, like she'd been hypnotized. "He says you're late," she whispered. I grabbed her hand and shook her. "We're leaving." She blinked, confused, like she'd woken from a dream. I stuffed our things into a bag, but the zipper wouldn't close. When I looked down, the bag wasn't our bag anymore. It was a worn leather satchel filled with objects I'd never seen. Prayer beads strung with teeth, a small recorder that kept playing back our own voices on delay, and a small folded cloth with a bloody cross stitched into it. The service elevator. I decided to take Mia down the service elevator, the one at the end of the hall used by housekeeping. We walked fast. The hallway stretched unnaturally long, like a funhouse mirror. Doors on either side were gone. Only blank walls and flickering exit signs. When we finally reached the elevator, its call button was already lit. Ding. The doors opened slowly. Inside was a man in a hotel uniform, but his name tag just said, Father. His face was completely normal, except for his eyes. No irises, just pale whites. Basement, he said, without moving his lips. I backed up, pulling Mia with me. The man smiled, but it wasn't human. His jaw moved too far, teeth clicking like insect legs. The elevator doors shut by themselves, but before they closed completely, I heard a whisper echo out. Confession is not optional. We turned and ran back toward our room, but the numbers on the doors were all different now. 314, 333, 666. The black podcast room. When we finally found our room, the door was already ajar. Inside was no longer our hotel room. It was a recording studio, walls padded with old foam, a huge wooden table in the middle with microphones set up. Cables ran across the floor like veins. In the far corner, an old cassette deck was playing static. On the table sat a set of headphones. They were turned toward me like an invitation. A single note was propped next to them. Speak and be forgiven. Behind the glass of the recording booth, I could see a shape move. White robes, mask, standing perfectly still. I put the headphones on. Static filled my ears. Then Father Dante's voice. The youngest is almost ready. Your confession first. I tore them off and tried to grab Mia. She wouldn't move. She was staring at the microphones like she was in a trance. He says we have to finish the episode, she whispered, smiling faintly. He says we can't leave until we record. The audience appears. The lights above flickered. When they came back, the room wasn't empty anymore. The glass behind the booth was gone. In its place was a row of pews filled with robed figures, all faceless, all whispering in unison. The sound didn't come from their mouths. It came from the walls, from the air itself. Speak, speak, speak. I pulled Mia toward the exit, but the door was no longer a door. It was a tall wooden archway leading into darkness. Through it I could see the cathedral again, and at the far end, Father Dante raised his hands. Something was moving beneath his robes. Many somethings. Like his body wasn't just one person. The reverse. Recording. On the table, the recorder clicked by itself and began to play. It was our voices, but not from now. From the future. I heard myself begging, screaming. I heard Mia crying. I heard Father Dante's voice saying, Your confession is complete. I slammed the recorder off. It kept playing anyway. The lights dimmed further. The pews of robed figures began to stand, one by one. The offer. Then, Father Dante's voice filled the room, louder than before. Choose, child, your confession or hers. The microphones in front of us turned on by themselves. Their red lights blinked. The robed figures leaned forward as one, waiting. Mia looked up at me, her eyes completely black now. He's waiting, she said. I felt the air shift, colder, thicker, like we were underwater. The walls pulsed with a heartbeat that wasn't mine. A door I hadn't noticed before creaked open behind the pews, showing only more darkness. And then a single, pale hand reached out of the darkness, gesturing for Mia. The last sound, the last thing I heard before everything went silent, was a noise, like a knife sliding across stone, and Father Dante whispering, Bread of life, flesh of family, begin. The lights cut out. When they flickered back on for just a second, Mia was gone, and I was sitting alone at the table, the headphones on my head, the microphone live. When the lights came back on, It was like waking up inside a corpse. The walls around me were no longer soundproof padding. They were skin-stitched together slabs of grey flesh, tight like drum leather, pulsing, breathing. The seams bled a little each time they expanded. The microphones were still on, still recording. The little red lights blinked in perfect rhythm with my heartbeat. I was alone. Mia was gone. The pews were empty now, but faint outlines of the robed figures were burned into the air, like the after-image of staring too long at the sun. Shadows still whispered, even without mouths. I couldn't understand the words anymore. They weren't in English or Latin. It was older, something you weren't supposed to hear with ears. The room stank of wet cloth and sour milk. Then the static started again. The speakers crackled, and I heard a sound I've never been able to forget. A knife slicing through cartilage, followed by a soft, wet thud. The hall of mouths. I ran. I didn't care where. There was a doorway behind the pulpit now, a narrow stone archway with red velvet curtains. I pushed through them and entered what I can only describe as a hallway built from mouths. The walls were covered in rows of human mouths, lips sewn at the corners, all whispering the same phrase on repeat. Confess, confess, confess. Some mouths were wet and fresh. Others were rotting, teeth falling out. One large mouth near the ceiling had braces on it, still stained with blood. The mouths were all different sizes, different ages. Some looked like they belonged to infants. Some looked exactly like mine. As I walked, the mouths grew louder, more urgent, until I realized they weren't repeating anymore. They were each saying my secrets. You lied to your mother. You let your friend OD and never called 911. You watched him choke. You wanted your sister gone before all this. You made the call. You let him in. I screamed and clamped my hands over my ears, but the mouths were in my head now. I don't even know how long I ran. Time didn't work right there. The hallway twisted in on itself, like an intestine. Eventually, I reached a wooden door with a keyhole, shaped like an open jaw. I didn't have a key, but something behind the mouths whispered, "Use your confession." The voice room. I tore the recorder from my hoodie pocket, the one that had been playing our future screams. I held it up to the keyhole and pressed play. The door unlocked with a low, wet groan. Inside was a circular room lined with old radios, cassette players, wax cylinders, and busted boomboxes. Every one of them turned on at the same time. Dozens of versions of my voice echoed off the walls, some crying, some screaming, some whispering things I don't remember saying. Then came Mia's voice, crying. I spun toward one of the radios. Her voice was soft, distant, but I recognized it. He's not a priest. He's not a man. He's not anything. He's using your voice to find others. You brought him into the feed. The lights dimmed, and a projector on the ceiling kicked on. It showed a recording of the moment I started the podcast episode with Father Dante. But the camera angle was wrong. It wasn't from my webcam. It was from behind me. As if someone had been filming over my shoulder that whole time. The cloak chapel. When the film burned out, a hatch opened in the floor. A ladder led down into complete darkness. I didn't hesitate. I climbed. It felt like hours before my foot finally hit solid ground. I was in a vast stone cathedral, miles wide. Everything echoed. No windows, no sky. Only flickering torches lining the walls, burning with black flames. The pews were full again. Hundreds of faceless robed figures, all sitting perfectly still. The altar at the far end glowed faintly, At the center of it was Mia, kneeling, eyes closed, hands folded, dressed in white, and standing over her. Father Dante. Only this time, he wasn't wearing a mask. The face. Beneath his face was smooth. Too smooth. No eyes, no nose. Just a single mouth. Wide, lipless, full of yellow teeth that pulsed like they were breathing. The skin around it twitched and tightened like it was always about to scream, but never did. He raised a long, bony hand. In it was a knife shaped like a crucifix. I charged forward, but the floor beneath me cracked and folded like paper. I fell backward into the pews, which were no longer wood, but spines, vertebrae and ribs wrapped in parchment skin. The figures beside me turned, all moving in sync. They began to chant, confess, offer, consume. One of them pulled back their hood. It was Nate, or at least, what used to be Nate. His face was waxy, half melted. His eyes were gone, but his jaw moved like he was still trying to talk. He took my tongue. Don't let him take hers. The ritual begins. At the altar, Father Dante raised the knife. The flame above it flared. I screamed Mia's name, but no sound came out. The air thickened. Every whisper in the chapel crescendoed into one word. Now. And the lights went out. When they came back on, Mia was gone. The altar was empty. The floor where she knelt was soaked in something dark, seeping into the cracks. Father Dante turned toward me. His single mouth grinned. She confessed, and then I blacked out. The wake up. I woke up in a room that looked like a hospital, but everything was wrong. The windows were painted on. The fourth drip was full of black fluid. The heart monitor played Gregorian chants instead of beeps. On the table beside me was my podcast mic and a note. Episode 13, Final Confession. I checked my phone. I hadn't used it in days, but somehow a new podcast episode had been uploaded. The thumbnail was a grainy photo of Mia. It was titled, The Body of Christ. The description was just one sentence. It's not the bread that feeds us. It's the sacrifice. The comments were locked. The views were climbing into the thousands. And the worst part, I didn't upload it. I didn't leave the fake hospital room for 3 days. At least I think it was 3 days. There was no clock, no sun, no night. Just the chanting coming through the vent, soft and constant, like a breath that never ended. Each time I tried to sleep, the walls would pulse like lungs. The floor creaked like bones being stepped on, even though I was alone. The fourth in my arm didn't give me nutrients. It gave me audio. I could hear it. Faint whispers in my bloodstream, flowing up into my brain. Voices on loop. Mia's laughter. My mom crying. Nate choking. My own voice, warped like it was underwater. Father, forgive me. I let him in. The mic on the table blinked red. I didn't touch it. I didn't have to. It was already recording. The voices start eating. On the fourth day, I think, the walls changed. They peeled, like wallpaper, only it wasn't wallpaper. It was skin. Mine. Not metaphorically. My skin. Birthmarks. Scars. A weird freckle on my left wrist. All there. Then the vents shut off. The room got quiet. Dead quiet. Until the speakers turned on, one at a time, across every corner of the ceiling, and played a new voice I hadn't heard before. It wasn't human. It was layered, like a choir trying to mimic a single person. You fed him, the voice said. You brought the audience. You were the door. You're not the victim. You're the confession, I screamed back. Where's my sister? The speakers crackled. Then, you've already heard her. The second feed. The TV on the wall, I hadn't noticed it before, turned on by itself. The screen was blank for a second. Then a familiar thumbnail appeared, my podcast logo. Off the Grid. Except the episode title was blank. It auto-played. I expected static, or my own voice. But what I heard was Mia, and not just speaking. She was begging. I don't want to be bread. Please, no more. I don't want to be the meal. Then a man's voice, calm, rehearsed, professional, like a podcast host, like me. Today we'll be interviewing a very special guest, the seventh daughter, first bone, last offering. Let's listen. Then chewing, loud, sloppy, wet, open-mouthed chewing. That's when I understood. It wasn't just about recording confessions. It was about turning people into them. The listener's room. The hospital walls collapsed outward like theater curtains, revealing a much larger space. Rows of giant pews made of plastic human teeth, leading down into a pit of black stone. Thousands of people sat there, not alive, not dead, just listening. Headphones melted into their ears, wires strung through their spines. Every face pointed forward, glassy-eyed, smiling. Some wore merch with my podcast's logo. Others had earbuds jammed so deep into their heads, their ears had fused shut. At the center of it all was a single stage, and on the stage, nailed to a massive cross made of microphones and bone, was Father Dante. His robes were gone. His skin was translucent. You could see dozens of faces pushing up from underneath, trying to escape. Every few seconds, one would force its way to the surface and scream, only to be swallowed again. Above him, a screen flickered with live stream numbers. 14,182 viewers, 1,004 likes, 0 comments, because the dead don't comment. The last episode. A panel opened in the floor beneath me. A staircase led downward into what looked like an old Catholic radio booth, soundproofed with hair and fingernails. There were candles made of human fat, a red velvet chair, a mic carved from a human femur, and a script, typed in courier font. Just 3 lines. Confess your sin. Eat the bread. End the broadcast. A tray was already prepared. A single communion wafer, soggy and red in the middle. Next to it, a small label. Made from the voice of Maya. Consume to remember. I fell to my knees. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't even scream anymore. The mic turned on. What they did to her. Then I heard the unedited audio. No cuts, no music, just raw tape. Mia, tied to the mic stand, forced to speak prayers backward while dozens of faceless figures recorded her voice and played it into jars of salt water. Each time she screamed, a wafer formed on a plate. They baked her words into sacraments. Every part of her had been turned into content. Her voice, her face, her fear. They uploaded her into the body of Christ, and now they wanted me to eat it. The mirror broadcast. I looked up. A mirror had appeared on the wall in front of me. Only it didn't reflect me. It reflected my audience. Thousands of people, scrolling, tapping, sharing, watching. Faces lit by screens. Kids, teens, adults, all watching the live stream of me about to eat my sister. Their usernames flash like confessions. At Love Temacabre. This is the wildest podcast ever at True Crime Fangirl. Just found this dark web pod, and I'm obsessed. At your _next TTT. He deserves this. He opened the door. The likes ticked upward. Every like fed the altar. Every follower kept the ritual alive. I finally understood. They didn't need to kill people anymore. They just needed you to listen. The ending. You're listening to I grabbed the mic. I tore the script in half. I threw the wafer on the floor and crushed it beneath my heel. The speakers screamed. Not audio, just pain. The booth walls shook. The audience behind the glass began to writhe. The headphones bled. Streams of red dripped from their ears, their mouths, their screens. I screamed, "I'm done! You don't get her!" A new voice, one I'd never heard, came over the intercom. Flat, corporate, familiar. "Thank you for completing episode 13. The final confession has been recorded." Then the lights went off. Where I am. Now I woke up 2 days ago, in my real room, phone next to me, battery dead, podcast mic on my desk. Mia's door was closed. I opened it. She was there, asleep, breathing, fine, like nothing had ever happened. She doesn't remember the hotel, the whispers, the man in robes, none of it. But sometimes when she's sleeping, I hear her murmur, "No more chewing, please. It's not done cooking yet." And the worst part, I checked my podcast stats. Episode 13 is up, public. I never uploaded it. 100,000 plus plays, over 3,000 5-star reviews, people calling it life-changing, unbelievably real, terrifyingly authentic. One comment said, "I listen to this episode every night. I don't know why. It just feels like home. I tried to delete it. The button doesn't work. The platform says, this content has been blessed, cannot be removed." And now, every time I speak near a mic, even for a second, the chewing starts again. Epilogue, the message in my feed. This morning, I got an email from an unlisted address. No subject, no body, just a file attached. Episode 14, _R, .wav. I haven't opened it. I won't. I don't care what it is, because I already know what it says. It says, "You're the new host." I messed with the moon mask cult from the dark web. I think my family is in danger. Alright, so, I never thought I'd be that guy posting on Reddit like, "Oh no, I stumbled into a cult, and now I'm being hunted. Send help, LOL." But here we are. Before I even get into it, let me just say, this is real. Like actually real. No creepypasta, no YouTube horror animation story time. BS. This happened. It's still happening. I'm using a burner account. I've wiped everything off my phone, and I'm using a VPN chained through like 5 countries. I'm paranoid as hell. I've barely slept. If anything happens to me, or my family, just know it started here. And if you're curious about the moon mask cult from the dark web, don't. So rewind like, I don't know, 5 months ago. Life was chill. I'm a college dropout, working part-time at a Starbucks in Toronto. I'd started this tiny Twitch stream on the side. Nothing serious. I just vibed, played horror games, did reacts to cursed TikToks, that kind of stuff. Super small channel, maybe like 60 followers. But hey, it was fun. One night, I was live, reacting to one of those top 10 disturbing YouTube videos you should never watch at night lists. You know, your usual content farm voiceover with spooky rain sounds in the background. Video number 7 was this thing called Moon Mask Ritual, archived livestream, 2013. The thumbnail was a black and white still of someone in a weird ceramic mask with a crescent moon carved across it, sitting cross-legged in what looked like a candlelit basement. The description was all glitchy text and Russian characters. The video itself had like 17 views and had been uploaded only once in the last 10 years. Every other upload had been taken down, Naturally, I was like, yo, we gotta watch this. Bad move. I clicked it, expecting like some artsy ARG stuff. You know, typical analog horror vibes. Instead, the screen flickered, and for a few seconds, it was just black. Then slowly, this grainy footage fades in, showing a guy, or maybe a girl, couldn't tell, kneeling on a concrete floor, arms out like a cross. That moon mask was just staring into the camera. The weirdest part? There was no sound, no ambient noise, just complete silence, like dead silent. I even took off my headphones to check. Nothing. I should have stopped watching when the candle behind the figure suddenly went out by itself. You'd think that was the end, but nah. That's when the chat lit up. Except, not my Twitch chat. It was their chat. The video started showing old school chat messages on the screen, like they were being overlaid live. They scrolled fast, almost unreadable, but I caught a few. The 13th watcher has entered the chamber. Silence means agreement. Bring the blood of the mirror. Do not acknowledge the moon. Okay, what? I remember leaning into my mic like, bro, this has gotta be fake. This is like some art student project from 2013 or something. But then, my chat froze. Not like lag. Everyone got disconnected. At first, I thought maybe OBS crashed or my Wi-Fi was bugging out, but I checked. Everything was fine, but my viewer count dropped to 0, which has never happened even when I stream at 2 a.m. And then, something popped up on my screen. A message, typed across the bottom of my Twitch stream overlay, in the same glitchy font from the video description. Do not follow the mask. You've been marked. I Alt F4'd so fast, you think my PC was on fire. After that night, things just started to get weird. My phone began glitching, like I'd get these random unknown caller FaceTime calls, always around 3:33 a.m., but no one would be on the other side. Just blackness, like a void. One time, I swear I saw something move in the dark, like a pearl face for half a second before the call ended. I started hearing this clicking noise in my AirPods whenever I walked past reflective surfaces, mirrors, car windows, even puddles. Always that same pattern. Click, click, pause, click. I googled it, obviously. Nothing helpful. Just a bunch of Reddit threads from like 2012 that ended in dead accounts and deleted posts. I was still telling myself it was just ARG marketing, probably some creepy viral thing, until the package showed up. It was left at my apartment door. No label, no return address, just a brown cardboard box with one thing written in Sharpie. For the 13th watcher. I stared at that for a long time. Eventually, I took it inside and opened it up. Inside was a black VHS tape. Who even owns a VHS player anymore? A small Ziploc bag with what looked like hair. A printed Polaroid photo of me, not like a selfie. This was taken from behind, through my bedroom window. I was sitting at my desk, headphones on, editing a YouTube short. That's when I started losing it. Like, genuinely, I felt my stomach drop. That photo couldn't have been more than 2 days old. And I live on the 4th floor. There's no balcony, no fire escape, nothing. How did someone get that shot? I called the police. They showed up, did the usual walkthrough, said it was probably a prank or a stalker, told me to keep the doors locked and install a ring cam. No help at all. And then, 3 days later, my sister went missing. I hadn't even told her about any of this. She's 16, goes to this artsy high school downtown, loves making TikToks, always posting Starbucks runs and haul vlogs. Super normal kid. That morning, she posted a story on Instagram. Just a mirror selfie in her room. Nothing weird. Just her usual caption like, "I hate math class lol." Then she vanished. No phone activity. No social media. Nothing. Last place her phone pinged was a gas station off the 401 highway, 45 minutes out of the city. I drove there, looked around, asked the cashier. No one had seen her, but in the back corner of the lot, I found something taped to the back of a signpost. It was a crumpled piece of photo paper, another Polaroid, of her, standing in what looked like a dimly lit basement. Same cement walls, same candles, same moon mask figure, standing behind her. I haven't gone back to the police yet. I don't think I can trust them. I don't even know if anyone is real anymore. My Ring cam's been glitching. My laptop turns on by itself at night. My microwave started counting down even though I never used it. The moon mask cult isn't just some dark web myth. They're real. And now I'm in it. My sister is missing. My phone camera turns on randomly. Every reflective surface in my apartment has been covered. I don't know what's next, but I have to go deeper. I'm gonna find out who's behind this. If I don't make it, and this post is the last thing I leave behind, please, don't watch that video. And for the love of God, don't wear the mask. When I woke up that morning, my phone was gone. Not like I misplaced it, like it had been taken. I remember falling asleep on my couch, hoodie still on, laptop open, and the faint glow of my Ring camera blinking on the shelf. At some point in the night, the light on it went out. When I woke up, both my phone and the VHS tape from the box were gone. I tore the apartment apart, closets under the bed, kitchen cabinets, but nothing. And then, as if on cue, my laptop screen flickered and a new window opened. No browser, just a black screen with white text. You have 7 days to comply. Bring her back. That was all it said. And then it closed itself. The first thing I noticed was that the text didn't use my keyboard font. It looked like something from an old DOS terminal. The cursor blinked twice before vanishing. I don't know what made me do it, but I typed back, "Where is she?" Nothing. I typed again, "What do you want?" Then 3 words appeared. "Put on mask." That was the moment I realized there was a second box in my apartment. It wasn't there the night before. It was sitting in the corner by the bathroom, like someone had just placed it there and left. This one was heavier. When I opened it, it smelled faintly of damp concrete and candle wax. Inside was a folded grey robe, a small card with an address on it, and a full ceramic mask shaped like a crescent moon. The mask's inside was lined with some kind of red felt, but it was wet. Not sticky, not paint. Wet. I dropped it immediately. The card had an address printed in blocky black ink. 1739 Palmerston Avenue, below. I'd never even heard of that address, but a quick search showed it was an abandoned subway entrance. Closed since the 1980s. Completely sealed off. No maps, no records of underground levels. And yet, the card said, "Below." That night, I took an Uber halfway there, then walked the rest of the way. It was freezing out. Toronto winters can make you feel like you're walking on another planet. The streets were empty except for the occasional Tim Hortons bag blowing by. When I reached the old entrance, the gate was padlocked with a heavy chain, but the chain had already been cut. Someone had been here. The inside smelled like wet concrete and old rust. I walked down, flashlight shaking in my hand, my heart punching at my ribs. The stairs went down farther than any subway stairs I've ever seen. At least 10 flights. I kept thinking, this can't exist. The city would know. But then I saw it. A door. A heavy metal one, painted black, with no handle. Just a slot. I slid the card into it. It clicked open. The air inside was humid and warm, like a basement where someone's been burning candles for years. The walls were lined with shelves holding dozens of old CRT TVS, all playing static. Each one showed a different person's face, some sleeping, some crying, some just staring blankly at the camera. Then I realized one of them was me. The footage wasn't from my apartment. It was from right now. The camera angle was over my shoulder, like someone was standing behind me. I spun around. Nothing. I moved deeper. The corridor narrowed, turning into a low tunnel. Water dripped from the ceiling, echoing like faint footsteps. The smell was stronger now, like metal and something sweet, but rotten. Then I heard it. The clicking noise. The same pattern I'd been hearing in my AirPods for weeks. Click, click. Pause. Click. But this time, it was coming from ahead of me. The tunnel opened into a vast underground chamber. The ceiling arched high above, like a cathedral. The walls were lined with candles, melted down into wax stalactites. In the center of the room was a circle drawn on the floor in chalk, or maybe ash. Around it stood 7 figures, all wearing the same moon mask. Their robes were gray, like the one from the box. Their heads tilted in unison as I entered. In the center of the circle was a chair, and on the chair, blindfolded, duct-taped, was my sister. She was breathing. Her chest rose and fell, but her head was slumped forward. Her hands were bound. One of the figures stepped forward. Their mask was different, full, not crescent. A full white moon, with tiny holes where the mouth should be. Their voice was deep and flat, like a recording played backward. She saw the mirror. She belongs below. I tried to speak, but my throat locked up. I felt like I was about to faint. The figure pointed at me. Put on the mask, or she is gone. I don't know what came over me, but I took the mask from my bag, the one from the box. My hands were trembling so hard I almost dropped it. I raised it to my face, and that's when the lights went out. Total blackness. The only sound was the clicking, louder now, surrounding me. I reached out, felt nothing but air. My flashlight flickered and died. And then I heard my sister's voice. Don't! It's not a mask. The sound of her voice snapped me back. I dropped the mask. It hit the ground with a sound that wasn't ceramic. It was like something soft hitting the floor. Wet. The figures hissed in unison. Not a human hiss, like steam escaping from a pipe. I turned to run, but the room had changed. The doorway was gone. The tunnel I came from was just another wall now. And in the darkness, something started moving. Not footsteps, not human. It was like something dragging itself across the floor. Slow, deliberate, getting closer. The figures all began chanting in a language I didn't recognize. Low, guttural sounds, like rocks grinding together. I heard my sister scream, and then the chanting stopped. When the lights came back on, the chair was empty. She was gone. All 7 figures were gone. The mask I dropped was gone. The only thing left in the circle was a Polaroid photo, face down. I picked it up with shaking hands. It was a picture of our house, taken from the street, at night. My sister and me, standing in the window. But the date printed on the bottom was 3 days from now. I don't remember running back up the stairs. I don't remember how I got home. But when I walked into my apartment, my phone was sitting on the counter. Screen on, recording. The timer said 6 hours, 13 minutes, and in the reflection of the black screen behind me, something was standing. Not a person. Not exactly. I've locked every door, covered every mirror. My sister's still missing. But now, every night, at exactly 3:33 a.m., my phone rings. And this time, it's not silent. It's her voice, whispering, below, below, below. I'm not sure how much longer I can keep this up. They don't just stalk you. They don't just watch. They rewrite everything. And now, I think they're coming for me next. The third night was when my apartment stopped being my apartment. At exactly 3:33 a.m., because of course it was, the ringing started again. That awful muffled ringtone, low and warbling like it was underwater. I didn't answer at first. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, trying to convince myself it was my imagination. But the sound didn't stop. It got louder, sharper, not coming from my phone anymore, coming from inside the walls. I pressed my ear to the drywall, and I swear to God, I heard my sister's voice, faint, like she was whispering directly into my skull. Don't let them in. I started tearing at the paint with my nails, just clawing. I don't even know why. It felt like I had to. The drywall cracked, and for a split second, there was something behind it. A black shape, smooth like plastic, pressing against the inside. When my fingers touched it, it was cold and wet at the same time. Then it slid away. When I stepped back, the wall was perfect again. No crack, no hole. My hands were raw and bleeding. That morning, my notifications blew up. Dozens of messages from random accounts I didn't recognize, all with the same phrase, "Welcome, new moon." I tried to block them, but more kept coming. Instagram, TikTok, even my Starbucks employee portal. Same phrase, same weird crescent moon emoji. Some accounts had no profile pictures. Some used my sister's face, not her usual selfies. These were pictures of her crying, pictures I'd never seen before. I smashed my phone against the counter until the screen spiderwebbed. Thought maybe that would help. But when I powered it back on, the background had changed. It wasn't my usual wallpaper. It was a live feed of my bedroom door. From the other side. By afternoon, I couldn't stay inside anymore. I left. Just walked. Didn't matter where. Ended up at a McDonald's downtown, just to be around people. I figured, crowds, cameras, Wi-Fi, safe, right? The place was packed with kids from the nearby high school. Normal chatter, normal smell of fries. For 5 minutes, I actually felt almost normal. Then the kid behind the counter called my order number. I went up. He smiled at me. Too wide. Way too wide. And under his shirt collar, just visible, was the edge of a gray robe. He leaned in and whispered, "You're late." My heart stopped. I bolted out, leaving the food behind. Ran through the mall like a lunatic. Security guards glanced at me, but didn't intervene. When I finally stopped to catch my breath, I noticed something horrifying. Everyone had stopped walking, just stopped. Hundreds of people frozen mid-step, phones held up. All at once, they slowly turned to face me. Every single one of them wearing a moon mask. I blacked out. I don't even remember falling. When I woke up, I was in a moving van. The windows were covered. My wrists were zip-tied. There was a hood over my head. My stomach dropped. This wasn't a dream. This was happening. I heard whispers, not English, not any language I recognized. One voice was clearer than the others, low, steady, almost hypnotic. It kept repeating something like a countdown. When the van stopped, they dragged me out. The floor under my knees felt like stone. Cold air, damp, a smell like old coins and mold. They pulled the hood off. I was back underground, but this wasn't the same chamber as before. This was bigger, a cavern carved out of the earth, lined with mirrors, floor to ceiling, hundreds of them, each one fogged, cracked, but showing something that wasn't real. In one mirror, I saw myself screaming. In another, my sister was standing behind me. In another, the two of us were children, holding hands, crying. And in the center of it all was a pit, perfectly circular, so black it didn't reflect light, the kind of black that felt like it was pulling at your eyes. The leader stepped forward, full moon mask again, voice like a broken record. The mask is not worn, the mask wears you. They handed me something small and heavy. I looked down. It was a Polaroid camera, the old instant kind. There was tape on the back with writing, "Take the picture to know the truth." They forced me to point it at the pit. My hands were shaking so bad the frame blurred, but when the photo printed, I almost dropped it. It wasn't a photo of the pit. It was a photo of my living room, except everything was wrong. The furniture was rotting. The windows were bricked up, and on the couch sat my sister, mask on, staring at the camera. She was holding up a sign. It said, "Run." I turned and ran. I don't even remember choosing a direction. The cold didn't chase me. They just watched, silent. I burrowed into one of the mirrored walls and fell through it like water. The sensation was like plunging into ice. When I stood up, I was back in my apartment. Except it wasn't my apartment. Not exactly. The walls were breathing, slowly, in and out. The air smelled like wet candle wax. My TV was on, showing the pit from the cavern, live. My front door was gone. Only a blank wall where it used to be. My phone buzzed on the counter. I picked it up. No caller ID. I answered. It was my sister's voice again, but this time clear. "You can't wake up if you never slept." Then static. Then a second voice, whispering right next to my ear, though no one was there. 7 nights left. Now I don't know if I'm asleep or awake. Every mirror shows something different. My own reflection sometimes smiles when I don't. Last night I watched myself walk across the room and stand over me while I slept. The ring cam footage is worse. Every morning, the files are longer. One showed me opening the door at 3:33 a.m. and letting someone in. Another showed my sister dragging me by the arm into the hallway. Another showed me sitting in the dark, wearing the mask, for hours. I don't remember doing any of it. I've tried breaking the mirrors. They don't shatter. They just ripple. I threw my phone out the window. It landed on the street and then appeared back on my counter, ringing again. The caller this time. It wasn't my sister. It was me. My own voice saying, "Below, below, below." I'm starting to think this isn't a cult. Or maybe it is, but not in the way we think. They don't just want bodies. They want something else. They're using us like doors, like reflections. And I think they're almost through. If anyone's reading this and thinking it's just a story, stop. Cover your mirrors. Don't answer calls at 3:33. Don't watch the moon mask videos. They aren't just videos. They're invitations. Because once you see them, they see you. And once they see you, there's no such thing as out. The fourth night didn't start at 3:33 a.m. It started at 2:58 a.m. I remember because I looked at the clock and thought, they're early. By then, I'd stopped sleeping entirely. I just sat on the floor, knees to chest, watching the blank wall where my door used to be. The air in the apartment felt heavier, like it was thickening with each breath. My ears popped, like pressure was building. Then the lights began flickering, not random flickers, patterns, short, long, short, like a code, like Morse. I pulled my hoodie over my head and covered my eyes, but the flickering came through my eyelids. Bright white flashes, too clean to be electrical. Every time the lights went off, the room was rearranged when they came back. Couch on the ceiling, refrigerator in the hallway. My own shoes lined up along the wall, each one pointing toward me. And then the voices started. Not from my phone this time, from the appliances. My microwave spoke first, its digital display scrolling words I couldn't process. The mask does not leave. Then my TV turned itself on, volume muted, showing a live feed of my sister's school hallway, completely empty, lockers open, lights flickering. At the bottom of the screen, streaming from below. My hands were shaking so bad I dropped the remote. When it hit the floor gave way like water, rippling outward in slow waves. I backed into the corner, whispering to myself, "This isn't real. This isn't real." But the wall started whispering it back to me. I don't know when I lost time. 1 minute I was on the floor. The next I was standing in my bathroom, staring at my reflection. Except it wasn't my reflection. It was me, but older, pale, lips cracked, eyes sunken like someone who hasn't slept in years. He pressed his hand to the glass and mouthed words I couldn't hear. Then blood began running down his side of the mirror, seeping from the corners, spelling out something backwards. No way out. When I turned away, the bathroom was gone. I was standing in a corridor lined with doors, each one slightly open, each one whispering. My bare feet left prints on the floor, but when I looked back, they were someone else's footprints, bigger, heavier, clawed at the edges. I opened one door. Inside was my sister's bedroom, but not hers. Not really. Her posters were upside down, the furniture was rotting, and on her bed was a bundle of robes. The bundle moved. I pulled it back. It was a mask, but not a moon mask. It was my own face. I ran again. I don't even know how long. The corridor bent and twisted like intestines. At one point, I saw a Starbucks sign flickering at the end of the hall, glowing green. I sprinted toward it, thinking maybe, just maybe, I'd reach the outside. But when I pushed through the door, I was back in my apartment. Same smell of wax, same heavy air. Only this time, someone was sitting on the couch. It was my sister. Her head tilted slightly, mask on. She didn't move as I approached. Her phone buzzed on the table. Same tone as mine. Screen cracked, but working. The notification said, "Your time below. 6 days, 7 hours, 13 minutes. When I touched her shoulder, her head fell sideways like a doll's. Hollow. She was empty, like a shell. Behind me, the TV crackled. My voice came out of it, speaking words I hadn't said yet. "You're already below." I lost it. I started tearing at the walls, at the floors, trying to find seams. The paint peeled like skin. Underneath wasn't drywall. It was mirrors, layer after layer of them, each one showing a different version of me. One screaming, one laughing, one standing completely still with the mask already on. I grabbed a chair and swung it at the glass. The mirror didn't break. It rippled like water. My reflection reached out and grabbed the chair, holding it in place. I felt its fingers on my side of the glass, cold. Then all the reflections began moving on their own, mouths opening wide. wider than humanly possible, dark cavities where faces should be, and out of them came the clicking sound, louder than it had ever been. Click, click, pause, click, thousands of them at once. At some point, I realized I was no longer alone. Figures stood in the corners of the room, grey robes blending into the shadows. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, all silent, all masked, their heads moving in perfect unison, tilting side to side like metronomes. One stepped forward, not the leader this time, smaller, thin, mask cracked down the middle. Its voice was nothing like a voice. It was a scraping sound, like metal on stone. "You've been here before." Another stepped forward. "There is no above, only below." Another. "You are the door." I backed up until I hit the wall, but the wall wasn't there anymore. Just the pit. That same black circle from the cavern, somehow inside my apartment now. The smell of metal was overwhelming. My ears rang. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't take it out. I knew what it would say. The cult began chanting, not words, but noises. The sound of knives sharpening, of chains dragging, of nails on glass. My vision blurred. The room bent inward like a lens. And then my sister's voice rose above the chanting. "Jump and wake up." I don't know if I jumped, or if they pushed me, or if I'd been falling the whole time. Because now I'm here, writing this, but not in my apartment, not anywhere I can describe. The floor looks like stone, but it feels like water. The sky is black, but moves like a ceiling. There are doorways all around, but when you step through, you come back to the same place. The chanting never stops. It's in my head even when my ears are covered. And sometimes, across the darkness, I see her, my sister, mask off, mouth moving, trying to tell me something I can't hear. Every time I get closer, she fades like smoke. If you're reading this, you probably think it's just a story, a long creepypasta, something to scare you for fun. That's what I thought too, before I clicked play on that video. But the moon mask isn't a cult. It's a map, a door, a way for something old to step through us, into our world. And once you start watching, you're already walking the path. They found this on an unmarked USB drive left in the lobby of a public library downtown. It was inside a small envelope with no return address, no name, no note. The file name was simply 13th Watcher Final.mp4. What you're reading now is the transcript of the video. The footage is mostly black, low quality, punctuated by flashes of dim light, like candles or phone screens. The voice is shaky, but recognizable. It's me. I don't know how much time I have. If you're seeing this, don't try to find me. Don't try to find her. Don't go below. Please. Please don't. I thought it was a cult. I thought it was a bunch of psychos in masks. It isn't. It's older than that. It's deeper. The masks are just doors. Everyone you see is another door opening. They can wear you like you wear clothes. They can move through reflections. They can rewrite your rooms, your days, your memories. I tried to run. I tried to go outside. But outside isn't real anymore. The streets loop back into each other. Starbucks, McDonald's, subway stations. They're all here but wrong. Empty. Repeating. Like a bad render. The people you see walking are just placeholders. Watch their faces long enough, and they glitch. Their smiles slide off. Their eyes disappear. They're hollow. My sister's here too. Or something wearing her. I can't tell which. Sometimes she's herself. Sometimes she's a mask. Sometimes she's both at once. When she speaks, it's my voice now. When I speak, it's hers. We're bleeding into each other. The pit does that. The pit wants that. There's a long section of static. The camera shakes. The audio picks up faint clicking noises in the background. Click, click, pause, click, louder and louder. Then the voice returns, faster, breathless. I found the center. There's a room. It's not a room. It's a place where all the mirrors lead. It's made of black glass, but it moves. The walls breathe. In the center is something that looks like a mosque, but bigger, huge, like a moon hanging low enough to touch. It's alive. It's watching. It doesn't blink. It doesn't need to. It's been waiting. They call it the new moon, the door that never closes. Every time someone watches one of their videos, a crack appears. Every time someone answers the phone at 3:33, the crack widens. Every time someone puts on a mask, it learns their shape. And when enough cracks open, it steps through. That's what's happening now. That's what's been happening. Another flicker. The image brightens briefly. A dim, enormous chamber is visible. Walls covered with thousands of masks. Moon crescents, full moons, even faces with no features at all. They're all breathing, expanding, and contracting like lungs. The voice now is barely human, slurred, breaking, two tones at once. I thought I could fight it. I thought I could save her. I was wrong. You don't fight it. You become it. That's the only way it wins. It doesn't need to kill you. It makes you into another mosque, another watcher, another door. I've seen the future, or maybe the past. It's the same here. Everyone you know will be here eventually. All the people at the coffee shops, the gas stations, the schools, they're already marked. They're already practicing. They're already rehearsing the chant without knowing it. That's why the clickings in your headphones, that's why your notifications all look the same. That's why you're reading this now. Static swells. The frame blurs. The voice drops to a whisper directly into the microphone. If you're reading this, you're not outside anymore. You're just on the other side of the mirror. Look behind you. There's another version of you watching right now. It's already tilting its head. Don't let it touch you. Don't let it. The feed cuts. For a few seconds, there's nothing but black. Then a single image flashes. A Polaroid photo of a stranger sitting at a desk, reading a screen. It's time-stamped with the exact time and date. You're reading this now. The USB drive was turned over to police, but the file was corrupted after one viewing. Everyone who tried to analyze it reported hearing faint clicking at night. One analyst stopped coming to work. Another posted a strange photo on Instagram of a cracked moon mask and then deleted her account. No one knows where the narrator went. No one's found the sister. No one's found the pit. But sometimes, late at night, a new video appears on random YouTube accounts for a few minutes before disappearing. It's always the same thumbnail, a crescent moon mask in the dark, and always the same title, Welcome, New Moon. If you click it, the screen stays black for 3 minutes and 33 seconds. Then your own face appears, smiling. And that's the end. Or maybe the beginning, because once you've seen it, you're already below. I ordered the world's loneliest tree from the dark web. My dog started acting strange, and his eyes are red at 3 a.m. Hey Reddit, I wasn't sure if I should even post this, but I need to get it off my chest. Not because I want attention or anything, but because if something like this happens to anyone else, you need to know what you're dealing with. Let me just start from the beginning. So I'm a 19-year-old guy. Pretty average life. I live in a small apartment just outside of Chicago. I do part-time delivery for DoorDash and sometimes Uber Eats when rent's tight. I've always been one of those curious internet people. You know, deep dives on YouTube, Creepypasta binge nights, watching those animated horror story channels like Here's My Story, and sometimes even falling into rabbit holes at 2 a.m. about things like what happens if you eat nothing but cheese for a month. One night, around early August, I was watching a video titled something like 10 creepiest things people bought from the dark web. You know the vibe. Voiceover guy with unsettling background music. Half of it probably fake, but entertaining as hell. They showed things like haunted dolls, weird VHS tapes with no labels, and then this one part that stuck out. A guy claimed he ordered the world's loneliest tree. No explanation, just a blurred out image of a leafless, dried out tree with this weird, deep black trunk. Like, unnaturally black. It looked more like a silhouette than real bark. The guy in the video said it came in a sealed wooden crate with a single tag that said, "It grows where it's wanted most, but never alone." That was it. No further detail. But the name of it, the world's loneliest tree, got stuck in my head like an earworm. It just sounded so poetic and eerie at the same time. So, me being me, I start Googling. Nothing came up. Not even on forums like 4chan or Reddit's Creepypasta subs. It was like the tree never existed except in that one video. That's when I did something dumb. I reached out to a guy I met in a Discord server a few months back. Someone who claimed he had access to the dark web and sometimes shipped curiosities for collectors. Let's call him Vance. Vance is one of those techie, low voice, always online at weird hours kind of people. He told me he'd look around and get back to me. 3 days later, I got a DM. He sent me a Tor link, just a string of letters and numbers. No name, no description, just, if you're serious, this is it. But only use a burner wallet. Don't say I didn't warn you. I didn't think twice. I mean, come on. I thought it was just going to be a spooky looking bonsai or something. I followed his advice. I used a clean laptop, connected through a VPN, bought $180 worth of Bitcoin, and made the purchase. The site was bare bones. No images, just a black screen with a blinking green cursor. After I confirmed payment, it just said, "Delivery in 3 to 5 days. Prepare your soil. Keep it alone." The crate arrived on day 4. No return address. It looked like one of those antique boxes you'd find in an old attic, wooden, sealed with rusty nails, and some kind of wax symbol melted onto the top. The symbol looked like a tree, but upside down, with its roots stretching into a shape that kinda resembled an eye. I opened it in my kitchen. Inside, wrapped in a thin layer of burlap, was a small black tree sapling, about the size of a wine bottle. No leaves, no scent, but I swear, the thing felt cold. Like not just cold to the touch. Wrong. It came with a single note, handwritten. It grows only in isolation. Never place it near another living thing. Not even a shadow. I literally laughed. I thought, okay, this is some next level LARPing, but I respected the commitment. Still, I followed the instructions. I planted it in a clay pot on my apartment's balcony. No other plants around. I even moved my cactus inside, just to be extra cautious. And then things started to get weird. It started with my dog, Oscar. He's a black lab, super chill, 8 years old, barely barks unless someone knocks. That night after I planted the tree, he wouldn't go near the balcony. I mean, straight up refused. He just stood in the hallway, growling low under his breath, tail tucked between his legs. I thought maybe a raccoon or something was out there, so I checked. Nothing. But around 3 a.m., I woke up to the sound of scratching. Not loud, just slow, persistent scratching against the sliding glass door that leads to the balcony. At first, I thought it was Oscar, but when I sat up, I saw him standing in the hallway again, staring at the glass. His ears were pinned back, and his eyes, they were red, not glowing red like a movie, but bloodshot, wide and wet, like he'd been crying or something. I called his name, but he didn't move, just stared. When I turned on the balcony light, I saw the sapling, except it wasn't a sapling anymore. It had grown, a lot. It was now about 4 feet tall. In one day, at that point, I was still trying to convince myself that this was just a prank. Like, someone swapped it out while I was asleep. Maybe Vance was trolling me. Maybe it was a fast-growing tree variety or whatever. I even Googled fastest growing trees in containers. Bamboo came up. This thing was not bamboo. And then came night 2. That's when I saw the figure. I was watching TikTok in bed, half asleep, when Oscar let out this long, low whimper. I muted my phone and listened. Scratching. Again. But this time, it was followed by a whisper. I swear to God, I heard it. Through the glass. Let me root. I froze. My blood turned to slush. I grabbed my phone and quietly walked over to the balcony door. I didn't want to open it, obviously, so I turned on the flashlight and shined it outside. There was someone standing next to the tree, not moving, just staring directly into the apartment. It wasn't a neighbor. This person was too tall, like unnaturally tall. Their skin looked damp, almost like it was coated in tree sap. I couldn't make out their face, just these glinting eyes like polished bark, and arms that looked too long for their body. When I blinked, they were gone. Just gone. And the tree? Now it had branches. I'm gonna end part 1 here. I know how this sounds. I really do. But there's a reason I'm posting this now. Things are getting worse. I've stopped sleeping. Oscar hasn't eaten in 2 days. And last night, I woke up with dirt under my fingernails and bark in my bed. If anyone's heard of this tree before, or knows what's happening, please comment below, because I think the tree isn't lonely anymore, and I think it's trying to root in me. You ever wake up and realize you don't recognize your own hands? Not just like they're dirty or scraped up, but like they aren't yours anymore? That's what happened to me the morning after I posted part 1. I woke up on my kitchen floor with dried blood on my wrists and soil crusted under every fingernail. Deep black soil that smelled metallic, not earthy, not like the potting soil I used for the tree. This smelled wrong, like iron and meat. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. Even in the city, you hear something. Traffic, voices, AC humming. But in that moment, dead silence. Oscar wasn't barking. He wasn't even breathing. I found him in the corner of the living room, facing the wall, completely still. His fur was soaked, and not with water. There was a dark, molasses-thick fluid dripping from his mouth, pooling onto the hardwood like slow-moving oil. And his eyes, those were what broke me. They weren't just red anymore. They were empty, hollow, like 2 deep sockets with wet veins trailing down his snout. But he was still alive. His body was shaking, barely, like he was trapped inside himself. I said his name. He didn't move. I snapped my fingers. Nothing. I touched his paw. He bit me. Hard. Drew blood. Then went back to staring at the wall. I was so shaken I barely noticed that the balcony door was open. I never leave it open. Ever. Especially not when I have a tree growing out there that's been attracting 8-foot-tall, sap-covered whisper demons, or whatever that thing was. I walked out, and I swear I nearly vomited. The tree had grown again. It was now taller than me, with a split in the middle of its trunk like a wound, oozing the same black fluid I saw dripping from Oscar's mouth. Its branches were long and crooked, with tiny fingers growing from the tips. Not leaves. Fingers. Pale, gray, child-sized fingers twitching in the morning breeze like they were trying to grab the air. And on the balcony floor, written in that same black sap, was a single word. Dig. Now let me be clear. I'm not insane. Or at least, I wasn't. I did everything normal people would do. I called 911. I tried the non-emergency line first, just to avoid sounding nuts, but nobody picked up. Not even hold music. Just silence. I posted on Twitter, trying to play it off as a creepy, glitchy tree moment with a blurry photo. No traction. 0 likes. I have over 800 followers. Not one of them saw it. I even posted a short TikTok. It uploaded, and then my account was instantly banned. No warning, no appeal option. Just violation of community guidelines. What guidelines did I break? Tree too haunted, dog too possessed. At this point, I decided to do the one thing I swore I wouldn't. I called Vance. He answered on the first ring. You opened the crate, didn't you? No, hello. No. What's up? Just that. I told him everything, every detail. He was silent for a full minute. Then he said, It's not a tree. That's just the shape it takes. What does that even mean? I asked. It's not from here. It doesn't understand life like we do. It was buried once. Forgotten. Some people want it found again. That's when I heard something on his end of the line. A second voice, sobbing. It was a woman, screaming through tears. Don't plant it. You don't know what it feeds on. The line cut out. I never got him back. His number no longer exists. His Discord account is gone. Deleted like it was never there. I started digging later that night. Not because I wanted to. Not because I'm brave. I was sleepwalking again. I woke up at 2:47 a.m. outside on the balcony with my hands in the dirt. Bare hands, nails cracked, fingers muddy, skin scraped raw. I had dug a hole about a foot deep with nothing but my hands, and when I came to, I saw something shiny at the bottom. It was a mirror, not a full one, just a jagged shard, and in the reflection, I didn't see me. I saw something behind me. It was tall, taller than the balcony doorframe, thin, black, with glowing embers for eyes. Its body looked like cracked bark, but it moved like it was wet, like something submerged and boneless. When I turned around, nothing. But the tree was closer. It was now only a few inches from my door, roots stretching across the balcony like veins, wrapping around the railing like it was strangling the metal. The fingers on its branches had grown longer. They were curling now, reaching, and beneath the bark I could see something moving, like veins under skin. I dragged Oscar to the bathtub. It was the only place that felt isolated, safe, clean. I filled it with warm water and tried to wash off whatever was on him. As the water rose around him, I heard this soft, wet crack, like a bone snapping underwater, then another, then dozens. His eyes started leaking tree sap, the same thick, black substance. It filled the tub. I couldn't breathe. I pulled the plug and screamed, just screaming, no words. When the water drained, Oscar was still. His body was bloated, his fur was falling out, and his mouth was open wider than it should have been, like his jaw had unhinged. Inside his mouth, I saw roots. They were growing, fast. It's not just a tree anymore. It's inside him, maybe inside me too. My arms are sore in places they shouldn't be. My veins feel tight, like there's something moving through them that isn't blood. And the worst part, I can hear it. At night, it speaks through the walls, through the plumbing, through the static on my phone. It says things like, "The ground is not full. Let me grow inside. What's buried never sleeps. You're next." I found teeth in my sink drain this morning. Not mine, not Oscar's. Tiny teeth, like from a child. I tried to burn the tree. I poured lighter fluid all over it and lit a match. The flame never touched it. The fire danced around it like it was afraid. The sap steamed and the fingers writhed like worms in salt. But the tree remained. And the worst part, it laughed, not out loud, but inside my head, like this low, vibrating chuckle that scraped the inside of my skull like sandpaper, and then it spoke directly to me. "You fed me. Now you are root. I don't sleep anymore. I can't. When I close my eyes, I see dirt, endless dirt, and bodies, buried, twisted, growing downward, not up, roots made of bone, skin stretched into bark, and a voice, always that same voice, whispering, every root begins with a hand. There's more. There's so much more. I haven't even told you about what's happening to my skin, or what I found under the floorboards. But I need a break. I need to breathe. If you're reading this, and you're even thinking of ordering something weird online, don't. Because some things don't just arrive in a box. Some things arrive in you. There's a smell that hasn't left my apartment for days. It's like something sweet, but rotting. Like syrup poured over raw meat and left out in the sun. Even with all the windows open, it clings to everything. My clothes, my sheets. Even the water from my faucet tastes like it now. And I'm starting to think it isn't just coming from the tree anymore. It's coming from under the floor. The night after Oscar stopped moving completely, I noticed something I couldn't unsee. My bathtub, the one I'd left Oscar in after the roots started crawling out of his mouth, was starting to tilt, like the floor beneath it was slowly sinking. At first, I thought it was water damage. I mean, I've lived in crappy apartments before, but then I heard breathing coming from the drain. Not pipes, not water. Actual wheezing breaths. Slow, wet, struggling, like someone was trapped in the plumbing, choking on their own lungs. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat in the hallway, watching the bathroom door. It never opened, but I swear I saw something shift behind the curtain. Something tall, bending backward in a way no spine should. Around 4:30 a.m., my phone vibrated. I didn't remember leaving it on the kitchen counter, but there it was. Screen lit up. One new message. No number. Just a black background and one line of text. Dig deeper. I dropped the phone. Not because of the message, because the second I read it, I heard something tap on the tile behind me. One tap. Pause. 2 taps. Pause. 3. Like it was counting. And then slowly, the door to the bathroom swung open on its own. I'm not gonna lie, I blacked out for a second. Not from fear, just from this overwhelming, pulsing pressure in my skull. like something behind my eyes was trying to look deeper than I wanted to go. But when I came to, I was already on my knees, prying tiles off the bathroom floor. I don't know how I got the strength to do it. I'm not some strong dude. I'm 5 feet 10 inches, skinny as hell. But I ripped 3 tiles out with my bare hands before I realized what I was doing. There was something soft underneath. Not dirt, not wood. Something that felt alive. I grabbed a hammer from under the sink and started smashing the rest of the tile. I didn't care anymore. Rent deposit be damned. Something was under me, and it had been there longer than I'd lived here. The floor was pulsing. The more I tore into it, the more it bled. Yes, bled. I hit something that made a wet crack, and black fluid squirted up into my face. It burned. It smelled like copper and vinegar and spoiled milk. That's when I saw it. A face, pressed against the underside of the bathtub. Not Oscar's, not human, not anything I've ever seen. The skin was stretched thin like wet paper, covered in fine black hairs, and the mouth was split vertically, from chin to forehead, held open by exposed tendons and bone that looked like splintered wood. Its eyes were gone, just deep, pulsing sockets filled with sap. But it was alive. It opened its mouth wider. A slow creaking sound, like a door being forced open for the first time in a century. And then it spoke, not in words, in feelings. It sent something into my head that wasn't a voice, but I understood it anyway. A message burned directly into my brain. I was buried whole. You will feed what grows. I ran. Of course I ran, but I didn't get far. The walls of my apartment had shifted. I swear to you, the hallway was longer than it should have been. Doors were in the wrong place. The wallpaper was peeling, and underneath it were veins. Actual veins. Pulsing. The light started flickering, but not randomly. In patterns. Morse code, maybe. I don't know Morse code, but it felt intentional. Like the apartment itself was trying to talk to me, or warn me. I went back to the bathroom, because part of me couldn't leave Oscar like that, even if he wasn't really him anymore. But he was gone. The tub was empty, filled only with black water and strips of fur stuck to the edges. The walls were dripping, not with water, with sap, and something else, something thicker, yellow, sour smelling, almost like stomach bile. And then the drain gurgled. It started pulling inward, like a reverse birth, and something long and grey and arm-shaped started crawling out. Fingers first, bent, broken, nails too long. I grabbed my phone, but the screen was split open, not cracked, split, like someone had jammed a knife right through the middle of it. The camera still worked though, so I took a photo. I needed proof. I thought maybe I could post it, warn someone, send it to a friend. I tried to airdrop it to my laptop, but when the file transferred, it wasn't the picture I took. It was a video, black and white, shaky, showing me, sleeping, from the corner of the ceiling. The tree was in the background, moving. Its branches were longer. Inside the room, one of them was stroking my face. I'm not alone in here. I don't think I ever was. I started peeling the walls back last night. Not metaphorically, literally. Behind the drywall was bone. Ribs, fused into the structure of the apartment. And every time I exposed another part, I saw writing, carved into the bone, in dozens of languages, some ancient, some I couldn't even identify, but one line kept repeating, over and over in blood. The roots feed on witness. I don't think this tree was meant to be planted in soil. It was meant to be planted in people, in homes, in stories. It grows every time I remember it, every time I think about it, every time I tell you about it. And now you're reading this. You're feeding it too. Check your drains. Check your walls. Check under your tub. If you smell syrup and rot, it's already rooting. The first thing you lose isn't your sanity, it's your reflection. I realized this at 2:59 a.m. when I caught myself staring into the bathroom mirror and realized the person looking back wasn't me. It was smiling, mouth stretched too wide, teeth shaped like splinters. But I wasn't. Its head tilted slightly to the left, like it was trying to hear something, and then it whispered my name, my real name, not the one on my ID, the one nobody's called me since I was 5. I dropped the toothbrush and stumbled back. My reflection stayed, didn't move, didn't blink. I should have run. I didn't. I touched the glass. It was warm, and something moved inside it. The mirror wasn't just showing me anymore. There was a second tree behind me in the reflection, but not in my bathroom. Taller than the one on my balcony. Blacker. Its branches coiled like veins around the ceiling, dripping sap that hissed when it hit the floor. And at the base of the tree was Oscar. Except it wasn't Oscar anymore. It was something with his fur, his shape, but stretched, rearranged, like someone had tried to redraw him from memory, but forgot what a dog looked like. His legs bent the wrong way. His mouth opened like a cracked vase. His tail was a root. It was staring at me, inside the mirror, and then it stood up on 2 legs. The glass started to ripple, not like water, like skin. The reflection's hand pressed against it from the other side. My own hand, but longer. Fingers like branches, nails like thorns. It pushed harder. The glass bulged outward, stretching like a drumhead, and then it split. The mirror didn't shatter. It peeled open, like a wound. A black hand shot out and grabbed my wrist. It was cold and sticky, like holding wet bark. It started to pull. I screamed. I dug my heels into the tile. My nails ripped against the floor. I felt splinters of glass or bone cutting into my palms. The voice in my head said, "Cross over. Root deeper. Become hollow." I wrenched free and fell backward, slamming into the wall. The mirror sealed shut instantly. No cracks, no ripples. Just my reflection again. Except my reflection was still smiling. I tried covering the mirror. Blanket, duct tape, anything. It didn't matter. The shape of the tree still bled through the fabric. A dark silhouette, like oil on water. The blanket started to grow roots. I burned it. It screamed. By morning, the apartment wasn't my apartment anymore. The walls had gone soft. The ceiling bulged. The floor dipped like a trampoline under my feet. When I pressed my hand to the drywall, I felt a pulse, a heartbeat. The balcony door was gone. Not locked. Gone. Just a black, bark-textured wall where it had been. And in the middle of the living room, the tree. No pot, no soil. Just growing straight out of the floor. Roots writhing like snakes, pushing furniture aside. Its branches had spread into the kitchen, splitting cabinets, curling around the fridge like a fist. At the base of the trunk was something new. Teeth. Dozens of them. Small, human, baby teeth. Embedded like fossils. They weren't there yesterday. I don't think they were from strangers. I think they were mine. I went to the front door. There wasn't one. Just a black archway dripping sap. Beyond it, not the hallway. A forest. An endless black forest of identical trees. No wind, no sky. The ground was soft and warm, like flesh. My footprints filled with sap as soon as I stepped. I heard children laughing somewhere far off, but it wasn't joyful. It was wet, choking, like they were laughing underwater. I turned back. My apartment was gone. The archway had closed. And then I saw it. The mirror tree. It was right there, in the middle of the forest, twice as tall as the others. Its trunk was hollow. Inside, I saw shapes moving. People, pressed to the inner bark like they were grown into it. Some of them were still moving. Eyes darting, mouths open, silent screams. Their fingers twitched like branches. Their hair hung like roots. And in the middle of them all, I saw Vance. His head tilted back, mouth open, sap pouring from his eyes. His hands were fused to the trunk. When he saw me, he mouthed one word. Run. I did. I don't know how long. Time doesn't work there. The forest never ends. The trees lean closer the more you run. Their branches scrape your shoulders, whispering things you don't want to hear. Your skin fits the soil. Every story feeds us. You are already hollow. I tripped over something, a shape on the ground. It was a phone, my phone, except the screen showed a live stream. Me, running through the forest. Thousands of viewers, comments scrolling too fast to read. All of them the same word, over and over, root. When I finally stopped, I was at the base of another tree. Not like the others. This one was white, smooth, no bark, no branches, just a pale, glistening trunk that pulsed with a heartbeat. At the bottom, a hollow big enough for a person. Inside it, something breathing, slow, wet. It whispered, "You carried me here. Now feed me." I looked down. My arms weren't mine anymore. They were black, bark-skinned, veined with sap. My fingernails were thorns, and in my chest, something was moving. Roots. I could feel them, burrowing out of my heart, curling around my ribs, reaching from my throat. I think that's why I'm still able to write this. I'm not typing anymore. I'm growing this through you. The last thing I saw before the forest went black was a mirror hanging from one of the trees. It didn't show me. It showed you. Reading this. Behind you. A shadow moving. Just out of frame. Do you know what it feels like to lose language? To open your mouth and not recognize the sound that comes out? To forget the shape of your own name? Like it was buried in your throat? Because that's what happens when the roots reach your brain. They don't just twist around it. They rewrite it, sentence by sentence, memory by memory. I can feel the final parts of me fading, but the tree, it remembers everything. When I woke up, if you can call it waking up, I wasn't in the forest anymore. I was in my apartment, except nothing was the same. There were no windows, no doors, just black bark covering every wall, pulsating with a rhythm that matched my heartbeat. The air was thick, warm, like being inside a throat. And the tree, the original one, had split open. It wasn't a tree anymore. It was a womb. Inside it, I could see faces, thousands of them, layers and layers, pressed flat like leaves, mouths open, silent, teeth exposed like flowers. Their eyes were still moving, rolling, flicking. Some even tried to blink. They weren't dead. They were alive inside the bark. And I knew, deep in whatever was left of my spine, that every face had once been someone like me. Someone who clicked something they shouldn't have. Someone who got too curious. Someone who read too far. There was a smell now, different from before. Not rot, birth, like wet tissue and electricity. And then it opened its eyes, not on its trunk, on my walls, dozens of them, yellow, slick, blinking sideways like lizards, watching me. One of the eyes opened its mouth. Yes, the eye, and whispered something wet and gentle, like a mother cradling something too broken to cry. You are the soil now. I tried to claw the bark off the walls. My fingers bled. My nails snapped. The bark just grew back. Thicker. Darker. I screamed until my throat ripped. The sound echoed, but not like sound. The walls absorbed it, fed on it. A mouth formed near the corner of the ceiling. Not human, not animal, just a wet, puckered slit of gum and enamel. It spoke in my voice, but younger. I don't even remember sounding like that. It was a voice I hadn't heard in over a decade. It said, "You planted me. Now I bloom inside you. Something has grown beneath my skin. I can feel it when I move. When I breathe, it breathes with me. When I blink, I feel leaves twitch behind my eyes. When I speak, I taste sap. I tried to cut it out. Yes, I tried. Kitchen knife, mirror, sweat, blood. But the deeper I sliced, the less I bled. Instead, the wound flowered, and from it grew a tongue-shaped root, writhing in the air like it was sniffing me. I passed out watching it lick the blade I had used. When I woke up, my reflection was standing over me, and it had no face anymore, just a mouth, stretching from ear to ear, whispering, smiling, opening wider and wider until the skin tore, and from it dropped seeds, black, shriveled, wriggling like maggots. They hit the floor, and roots exploded out of them instantly, drilling into the wood, drinking up what little light was left in the room. Each one sprouted into a miniature tree. Each one had a face. Each face looked like someone I'd seen online. Vance, the girl from the Here's My Story channel, who vanished mid-video. The Reddit user who posted about ordering a doll that blinked. Every one of them, just watching me. Some were laughing, some were weeping, some were chewing on themselves. And then the floor opened, split right down the middle. The tree retracted, pulling itself into the wound like a spider escaping under the floorboards. It left behind a trail of mouths, all chewing in sync, some of them whispering, some of them praying. One of them said, "This is the final stage." The apartment collapsed inward, folding like wet paper, peeling itself into a spiral that spun and spun until I was standing in a room with no walls, only mirrors, hundreds, thousands. Each mirror showed a version of me. One was hanging. One was buried up to the neck in dirt. One had no face. One was feeding sap into a baby bottle. One was still planting the tree. And one, just one, was staring directly at me, typing, "This, right now. I understand now. The tree doesn't grow in the ground. It grows in stories. It roots through words, through screens. Every person who reads this becomes fertilizer. Each line you absorb is a root curling into your memory. And when you finish reading, the seed is planted. You'll smell it soon. The syrup rotting meat smell. You'll hear your dog growl at the bathroom door. You'll see your mirror smile when you're not. You'll hear scratching behind the tiles. You'll dig. We all dig eventually. This isn't a warning anymore. It's a birth announcement. The world's loneliest tree is not lonely. It's in you now. You invited it. You read it. You fed it. And it remembers you. The final message came through my phone screen 10 minutes ago. No number. Just a flashing black screen. One sentence. Another one rooted. I'm not the one who wrote this ending. You are. With your eyes, your time, your attention. And when your mirror smiles tonight, when your pet whimpers at 3 a.m., when the drain gurgles with something that isn't water, know this. the tree has taken root, and the next face in the bark will be yours.